Like the great prophet Nostradamus, my guest today is well known for the hundreds of accurate predictions he makes using astrology. The recent Hurricane Katrina, the Asia tsunami, and 9/11, just to name a few. If you want to find out what's going on in the world today, this is a show you cannot afford to miss. So join me and Dr. Louis Turi on Let's Talk Paranormal next. My guest today, Dr. Louis Turi, was born and raised in Provence, France, and was influenced by the great prophet Nostradamus and his methods of divine astrology. Since Dr. Turi moved to the United States in 1984, he's a most successful astrologer, author, lecturer, and is well known for hundreds, literally hundreds, of accurate predictions that he's made using astrology and accounts them in his yearly periodical called Moon Power, in which the whole proof of the predictions makes it positive proof and totally undeniable. Welcome to the show today, Dr. Turi.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're more than welcome. I want to say bonjour, monsieur, comment ça va?
Très bien, merci.
Ça va bien. I don't know any French. That's the smallest amount I know. It's good to see you, and it's such an honor to have you on the show
Thank you.
today. I want to take you back to your childhood a little bit, Louis, and find out all about you and how this got started with astrology and astropsychology.
You know, I always say to my students, incredible experiences breed incredible people that have incredible things to teach. And as far as my upbringing is concerned, I was touched by the incredible. And again, everybody has the right to be skeptical about anything that is incredible. But in my case, I'm a real actor, playing in a real movie, put it this way. So to answer your questions, I had to deal with UFOs at the age of 6 years old that have followed me 4 times so far.
Wow. And of course, where does Nostradamus then come into all of this?
After the 4th experience and being downloaded some of the information of the working of the universal mind, I couldn't help myself to research, study, read, and investigate all that is the work of Nostradamus. As a matter of fact, I can show you a little picture here that is right after the encounter. I painted my house with all sorts of symbolism, and it took me many, many months to rekindle Nostradamus' methodology. It has nothing to do with modern astrology per se. It's free of mathematical jargon, and it is very accurate in terms of depicting people's personality and, of course, doing predictions. So my connection with the great prophets is more of an intellectual nature.
Right. So are you saying then that your experience with these alien beings actually planted this inside your head that you were going to be involved with this kind of work?
Yes, if I may use that terminology, it was totally against my will. But you know, taking a trip inside of flying saucers and having a fetus of your wife being removed, witnessing all these incredible experiences.
A fetus from your wife being removed?
That's correct.
Where
Yes.
was this, Louis?
That was in August 11, 1991. We were on the way to from San Diego to Los Angeles, and we had a tremendous amount of time that was taken away from us, and that's where we were literally sucked in the belly of a flying saucer. And where I witnessed all sorts of incredible things. And I had difficulties when I watched the video of the 2 regressions that were made in Victorville by 2 top hypnotherapists. I had some problem myself to watch all this taking place. But again, the legacy that left me in terms of understanding the universal mind structure and how it interacts with the human psyche, it's, I believe, a blessing. It allows me to do what I do, to become who I am today, basically. But it was kind of dramatic in some ways. I've lost my wife in the process.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Did you go through hypnotic regression yourselves?
Yes, twice.
You did.
What they did is to freeze the first frame and freeze the last frame over an hour later. And I didn't move a single fraction. The only thing is that I complain when I am in the decontaminated room of being very, very hot. And you see me literally, dropping water. I'm totally wet as I'm speaking. You could see the water literally perspiring. So I was really much under. And I describe in great detail the trip inside of the saucer, watching my wife in a specific room when she was operated on, and then myself moving to that other room where something like an helmet came down from the roof of the room right on top of my head. And then I felt like concrete, electricity, crystal. And I felt like, I can't even describe it to you, but this is where I was downloaded, all sorts of information.
You know what? I remember having Barbara Lamb on our show a couple of years ago, and she said exactly the same thing that you've said. This helmet-like device came down from the ceiling, and she was downloaded a variety of information. So, and it's traumatic on relationships too. Relationships fall apart.
Absolutely. I mean, my ex-wife Brigitte became literally paranoid. You cannot say the word UFO or extraterrestrial near her. She literally panics.
Oh, really?
And she was fully aware what was going to happen the next day. That was unbelievable. The night before, she was in a fetus position. She was crying in the middle of the bedroom, asking me to look everywhere, under the bed, in the basement. And I said, what's going on with you? I thought I was going to call 911. Never seen Brigitte in such a state of mind. And the very next day, she had a premonition of what was going to happen the next day.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Right.
And she never came back home. She didn't want to go back home. She felt something into the house, and from there, our relationship went.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What kind of beings are we talking about here, Louis, that you were dealing with?
I dealt with the Grey when I was 6 years old. They used to come in the attic every single night. I was kind of a handful. My stepfather used to put me in the attic, and I was there. And I was screaming my head off every single night, complaining that small monkey with big eyes were coming to me and bother me every night. I mean, there was nobody in 1956, who knew about UFOs or abduction during those days. We didn't even have a radio, for what I know. And I was waking up the entire neighborhood. And then the local doctors, during those days, we didn't have any Prozac or Ritalin, prescribed, a shock, electrical shock. This is how they used to fix kids' mind in those days. Obviously, my mom didn't want me to go through that, so I kept my sanity. But everybody thought I was going crazy, screaming my head off every single night, because it's very frightening to see this little thing coming to you.
I can
and I
imagine.
just could only hide away, and then hoping that these things would get away. And I just got courageous and peeped into the blanket, and one of them came 2 inches from my face. I just passed out.
Wow.
And then, after a certain time, the visitation ceased, and I knew that the next day I was going to be okay. But it was very dramatic. I wish I had somebody that could explain to me what Greys or extraterrestrial were about. So at least, my mom just said that I had bad dreams. She didn't know better. I said, Mom, no, it's real. Every night they come and talk to me. They do things. What? I don't know. Pass out. I'm too scared. It was difficult.
And it's strange, isn't it, how parents deny this kind of thing, but they so want you to believe in Santa Claus and Father Christmas. So Nostradamus and his whole method of astrology, what is his method about, Louis?
Well, you have to remember that modern astrology is very jargonized. They use trine, sextile, degrees, solar, Saturn return, and they use also the Julian calendar that was changed by Julius Caesar to fit his political aims. So when I teach at the American Federation of Astrologers, anywhere I go, it's always a problem for me to re-educate, if I may use that words, mathematically poison astrology. And I said, astrology is a science because it has a structure, but it's an art. You use symbolism, you use metaphor, you use feelings. So I have to re-educate them and ask them to live their astrology outside, because Nostradamus didn't have a watch 500 years ago. He didn't have a computer. So his astrology, and of course being the top astrologer of all time, has something to offer. Mm-hmm. So I worked with R1 Software, based here in Los Angeles, to develop software that emphasizes the location of the dragon's head and the dragon's tail, which allows me to read people much more accurately than any modern astrology methodology, and doing also predictions.
Because there's so many different types of astrology. It's
there
where
is
do you start with
85 different ways to run a chart. And I've tried every one of them, and none of them has allowed me to do what I do. So I have to kind of rekindle Nostradamus' basics astrology, which is free of mathematical jargon, very easy to assimilate. None of my students have failed the test so far.
So even I could do it?
Anybody can do it. There is no mathematics involved. The software will take care of that part. But when you deal with somebody, if you deal with a very important business deal, you build a reflex. If you become an astropsychologist, you build a reflex that allows you to understand how the person thinks, the fear principle, the career, the past life residue, even the area that are very secret. We're talking about health, or even sex matter. You could, or even religion. The way people perceive religion is set by the 9th house. So it's a matter of understanding the structure of the universe and being able to jump from one house to another one and understand the values of each planet and affecting those houses.
Now, some people might say, Louis, that, we've heard about Nostradamus before. He's not that accurate. I know things, that things he predicted have not happened.
Well,
what would you say?
You have to understand that Nostradamus was in a very peculiar position. He was caught when he saw some people working around the church carving the Virgin Mary. He said to the carver, to the artist, that he was building evil. So of course, this person reported him to the French Inquisition. And the reason why he kept his head on his shoulder is because he was friends with Catherine de Medici, which means the French queen.
Oh, okay.
So he was in a position where he could not divulge, his message in an open way like we do nowadays. So he had to be careful. During those days, the church was the government.
Right.
Period.
Yes.
And if you mess up just this, you lose your head.
Right. Ouch.
Yes.
Now, I know that you're heavily involved with astropsychology. For our viewers that don't quite understand that, they know a little about astrology but don't know what that is. What is it, Louis?
Astropsychology is a mixture of the old divine astrology, which is the Nostradamus methodology, and you combine this with the basics of psychology. But even if you don't have a degree in psychology, astropsychology will take over right away. It's so simple, it's so obvious. Like, if you're a Cancer, decide whose food and the stomach, or the medical aspect of Nostradamus ways, and all of those born in July, they want to. So is my girlfriend. they want to eat all the time. It's just part of their analogy. It's part of their values. It's part of their stars, and they respond to that. Like a Gemini, like Art Bell or George Norrie. Both of them are born in June, which is the sign controlled by Mercury, the messengers of the god, making them basically steer into the communication in the radio world. Like you, born with your dragon's head in Gemini, born a messengers of the god to pass on a message to the masses. There is specific structure in this housing system. Knowledge is power, ignorance is evil. In the name of fear, ridicule, or religious poisoning, people are not allowed to build up their cosmic consciousness, and they became literally robots of the stars. God created the stars and the heavens for more than the sake of beauty. He gave it to us for interpretation so that we live a more productive and more safe life. But the government, especially the church during the old days, are not interested in giving you knowledge. Knowledge is power. Power is your option to establish emotional, financial, and spiritual stability. And for some reason, whether it be Jesus or God, they will need money, always needs money. There's something wrong here.
Right.
And the new age of Aquarius is changing things around as we are speaking.
And we will talk about the age of Aquarius a little bit later.
Absolutely.
I know that you do talk of energy cycles. Now, give us an example, Louis, of what that all means.
As I always say, in many of my TV shows and radio shows, I do not predict anything. You and I knows very well that history repeats itself. The weather repeats itself.
Right.
And I understand through the magnetic pull of the stars how this energy is coming back. What I do is very mathematical. I'm not saying I don't believe in psychic. My mom says you are much more psychic than what you could ever realize. But if I don't understand, I cannot endorse it or teach it. So I'm kind of a little bit cold when people are mingling me with psychics, even though that I respect it, don't get me wrong. Don't understand it all. But I know the cycle. I know where the moon is in each sign of the zodiac, and I know that the moon is more than a dead rock hanging above your head, and I know that the moon controls our response to life. You heard of the word lunatic, moody, and crabby. You know the farmers don't plant when they feel like. They use a farmer's almanac. You understand the pull of the moon able to raise billion tons of water and affect the fault, creating earthquakes, or the weather pattern. I don't understand when NASA or the National Weather Service cannot enter or even respect the word investigation in science. Being a scientist, you have to investigate. They don't even go there. They don't honor the word science or investigation, so they won't give me a chance.
Right.
They tell you where by following the fault. I can tell them when. By the time there is an earthquake in Los Angeles, it's too late. The needle is already moving.
Right.
You might hit a 7 point, or you're in trouble. I can tell you years ahead of time when that energy is going to come down. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a date later on, and you can check me out.
Okay. We'll put you to the test, huh?
You better.
Okay. Now, you know what? There are so many astrologers out there. There are tons of astrologers. And what makes you so different, Louis? Because you are making these phenomenal predictions. The Hurricane Katrina, the Asia tsunami, 9/11, and we could go on and on and on and on.
Not to forget certified letters sent to President Clinton telling him he was going to hurt his knee in Florida.
Really?
Absolutely. I just found the receipts and was sent to the post office to the White House.
Yeah, and
not long ago.
You talked about his heart surgery.
Including Art Bell telling him he was going to go out of his show, and in 1991 telling him America was going to go through a serious religious war. What makes me different? First of all, it's very important to realize that there is a lot of people over there. They have names. So-called psychic or astrologers that charge a fortune for a reading. And people have to start to wake up. Where are those very famous people when it comes to all the predictions that I did? The re-election of President Bush, the top astrologers and psychics said he would not re-elect himself. Other psychics didn't even approach the question. They didn't want to ruin their reputation. I'm there putting my name. I print these dates, and my books make it totally inaugural. So what makes me different? It's very simple. I'm real.
And that's it.
That's it. I'm real.
And you don't use any little bit of psychicness in there.
Again, now you're going to corner me. I don't know. I'm still a human being like anybody else. Sometimes I have subject my subconscious to let me know things ahead of time, but I understand the process. Your subconscious is like God, He will create a hurricane or an earthquake and kill innocent baby. What type of God is that? It's not the type of God I understand, so that's not the God I'm going to endorse or follow or support financially. I understand the working of the subconscious to the T. I know it gets your heart beating. I know it stops an infection. I know he's preparing you for what's ahead of you. I understand the working of the subconscious. Being an hypnotherapist, I understand also the structure of the universal mind interacting with your psyche. So it all makes sense. So how do you mingle psychics now? Maybe it's in between. I have no idea. So maybe there is something.
Yeah, and I mean, being a human being, we're all human beings, so we have that intuitive gut feeling, don't we? So we have to,
it's like my girlfriend the other day, she says, "Oh, I'm going to call my friend," and both of them, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I knew it was,
I was just about to call you.
Exactly. So there is definitely something, but I can't explain it to you through the subconscious and through the stars.
Right.
So the word psychic is like, it's like putting things in God's back. It's an act of God. To me, it's like, it's psychic. I understand my honor God, so to speak, through the creation, through his tools, through the stars, all that he created, and I understand how it operates. I can speak the language of the God. I understand the hieroglyph. The language of the God can be mastered, and it's outside the 12 commandments or the jargonized modern astrology or the Bible, as far as I'm concerned. I'm past that. Been there, done that.
Right, right. So there is a line to be drawn,
Absolutely.
really, between psychic and
Right.
astrology.
I don't like people to mingle me with psychics. And all that I did, I can show them. Any one of my students understand the process of my predictions.
Okay.
And they can do as well as I do, providing they get a little bit more confident or build a stronger reflex. But any one of them can do it.
I see. Let's have a look at some of these pictures that we're seeing on screen, Louis. We've got Nostradamus here, I believe, being taught.
Yep. Nostradamus was taught by both of his grandfathers. The Kabbalah and astrology, they were fleeing the Turks and the Arabs, or the Jews. Nostradamus was a Jew, by the way. He did seek refuge, his family, in the south of France, and the French king says, okay, you want to be safe, then you have to convert into Christianity. Meantime, both of his grandfathers taught him the Kabbalah, and only the Jew religions taught astrology.
Oh, really?
Yes, only the Jews.
Why? Why
because,
is that?
you know, it's part of the old Jew religion, not the new Jew religion facing the war. And that's a very different type of religion here. We're talking about the old religion, the essence of the Jewish religion, taught the Kabbalah and taught astrology. But again, that gave too much knowledge to the Jews. So the government, like the church, should turn everything around and take away the very important information, our relationship with the divine, and replace it with religious dogma.
I see. Okay. And we'll take a look at the next one here. And so what do we have here?
Well, this is the Pope being taught astrology by the Vatican Council. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, don't touch the stars, it's against God, it's against my religion. But what about those three kings following the star? That's
right.
That's the first part of the Bible.
Yes.
And a lot of people do not know that there is an astrological chart on the lobby of the Vatican. And there is an astrological chart on the roof of the Federal Reserve. There is an astrological chart that was used to build the dam in when you go to Las Vegas. The Hoover Dam was built with astrology. Anytime you go to Vegas, stop at the Hoover Dam and look at this humongous astrological chart on the floor. Astrologers pick up the time to build that.
Wow.
A lot of people do not know that the Pope was taught astrology by the Vatican Council.
Now, which Pope are we talking about here?
Oh, you have to trace it through
right
Jordan or Maxwell website. He's got all the nuts and bolts. The Pope, as a matter of fact, was elected under the constellation of Leo. Maybe you have this picture. I think I've seen it earlier. Next one, I think.
Yeah, let's look at the next one.
There you go. You see, that's the
There
Pope,
he
and
is.
right above his head, you have the sign of Leo. You have the belt of the zodiac right above the Pope. He was enthroned under the sign of Leo.
So the sign of Leo meaning?
It means light and love. Today, the moon is in Leo. Leo rules France and Italy. That's why we say French are romantic.
Oh.
It affects our language. Mais oui, madame, vous êtes bien gentille, because Leo is a sign of love.
Okay.
And it rules anything to do with fame. It rules children. It rules the fifth house of creativity. We are into the energy of Leo, which is France and light and Italy. And all the show is about knowledge and light, the
Right.
sun.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the dragon a lot in your books and in your lectures. How does the dragon play its part? Briefly.
Okay, well, it's going to be difficult. It took me 35 years to understand the dragon and 5 years to write a book of 500 pages. But to put it simple to you, there is more power in your dragon alone than the entire complexity of your astrological chart. And sad enough, no astrologers take the time to investigate the dragon. Here, let me give you a copy. Let me show you this. This is the power of the dragon. Over 500 pages of information of who made history. We could, for example, talk about the dragon of O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was born with a double dragon. Okay?
Are we talking Gemini again?
Yes.
Gemini, okay.
So this is why O.J. Simpson had killed 2 people. I know the stars don't lie. There is 2 kids, there is 2 judgments, there is 246 police car after him, and there is 246 attorney around him. It's all double. Michael Jackson has a double dragon. This is why from the black person he turned into a white person. Right. It's a double energy. President Bush and Gore, both of them were born with a dragon in Gemini. This is why when comes the time to count the vote, they have to count and recount and count again and count again, making the political front look like a jerk to the Europeans. And these are our leaders who have absolutely no cosmic consciousness. They don't understand the dragon. You got powerful people born with the head of the dragon, like Larry King and Oprah Winfrey. They're born with the head of the dragon in Aquarius that rules television. And you wonder why those guys are on television all the time?
There you go.
They have the stars. Einstein was born with the head of the dragon in Aquarius. Elvis Presley, he grew up with television being eccentric.
So it's all about where the head is and where the tail is.
Now, all the biggest criminals, the geniuses, people who have made history, Hitler, American president, the reason why they did what they did is because they were set by their dragon. And I explain in great detail in this book the power of the dragon.
Wow, that's very
type of
interesting. So the head of the dragon is the positive aspect, tail is the negative.
Not necessarily.
No?
The head of the dragon is an upside-down funnel of luck. If you have the head in Aquarius, you're going to be geared towards television, like Oprah Winfrey and Larry King. They're no better than you. They just have the stars.
Lined in the right way.
The tail of the dragon for Oprah Winfrey is in the sign of Cancer. Cancer retains water, it's the sign of food. This is why she
had a weight problem.
Weight problem.
That all makes sense.
It all makes sense,
It all makes sense.
So the head is an upside-down funnel. The more you push on the dragon's head, the more power, the more option, the more opportunity the universe will bring to you. Now, the tail represents your past life residue, your physical problem, where you're stuck. The universe is not going to help you on your tail. So you need to understand the tail and the head so that you can balance it out.
Right.
I was born with the head of the dragon in Aries and in my 3rd house, which is the house of communication. So I was born a leader of the mind, allowing people to understand their relationship with the universal mind interacting with the human psyche.
Okay.
So I bring a new concept of the human psyche.
Right.
And that's my job. That's why I write books, why I talk. That's why I channel information. And I'm not a psychic, but because of my dragon set, I'm able to perceive the archetypal realm of consciousness that I decode through the structure of the universal mind and bring it down to you to something that makes sense through my books or my teachings.
And there's no way to get away from the stars. That's it.
Anything under the stars is under the jurisdiction of the stars. Let's say you have a little dog. You see those old ladies running around with, with a little dog. You want to touch this little thing. This dog has a very powerful Scorpio or Leo.
Right.
You don't get close to that dog. He's going to kill you to protect his money. Now you have a very big German Shepherd with a Pisces dragon still. You go like this and it hides away.
Right.
Everything under the stars, you, I, plants, animals, every single thing is under the jurisdiction of the stars.
Right. Okay.
And then my job with people like you that are helping me to pass on my message is to explain in a logical way what really takes place in the supermind.
Well, Louis, we have sadly come to the end of this week's show, but you're going to come back on next week's show?
Oh, thank you. I would love to.
And we're going to talk more to our viewers, and we're going to tell you what this chart, magnificent chart, is all about. So stay tuned and join us next week for Let's Talk Paranormal with Dr. Louis Turi. Until then, keep an open heart and an open mind. Thank you.